Well, what we've got here is allegations of the most serious sort imaginable. If they're true, there would have been thousands of people killed for organ harvest simply because of their religious convictions or beliefs.
I met David when I was writing an article about human rights for the Epoch Times newspaper. He had given a speech in Santa Monica and seemed very out of place here in a trench coat in May. I was most struck by his tireless commitment to human justice. We kept in touch via email, and every time he wrote, he was in the airport on his way or returning from Geneva or Australia or somewhere in the world, always championing for the oppressed. This time, for people who practice Falun Gong. Falun Gong is a spiritual cultivation practice whose central tenets are truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. The mind-body practice, which had only a few adherents in the early 90s, quickly spread through China, where 100 million people were practicing. Threatened by the growing numbers, the Communist Party outlawed Falun Gong in July 1999, rendering 100 million loyal citizens criminals. Protesting their plight in peaceful demonstrations, they were beaten, arrested, jailed, and put in labor camps. What has followed in the last decade is perhaps the crime of the century.
The government of China itself sits on a very thin ledge because it doesn't exist by consent, it exists by repression and confusion and defamation.
David Matus and David Kilgore published Bloody Harvest, their thorough investigation addressing allegations of organ harvesting performed on live Falun Gong practitioners.
Organs from these executed prisoners have been used for any patients flocking from all over the world who could afford to get a transplant from these prisoners.
We know that some of the executions are timed for the organ transplants.
Happens in an operating room, no public access, clean up immediately afterwards, no crime scene.
The difference between organ trafficking and, say, sex trafficking or slavery is that organ trafficking needs doctors.
What you've got is now these army hospitals killing Falun Gong practitioners for their organs as a way of making money.
We were all arrested, and I was imprisoned in the detention center in Guangzhou. They tied me to the bed. They inject me.
I had never expected to see this in my lifetime.
There's no moral ambiguity. There's no shades of meaning about this. It's an evil crime.
We do know for a fact that there's large-scale executions in China. We do know for a fact that executed prisoners have their organs harvested unwilling, without their consent. We do know for a fact that the Falun Gong are depersonalized, dehumanized, and marginalized, repressed, persecuted, both in word and in deed.